If listening to Unforgotten has inspired you to create your own podcast, you're in luck. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can make your own podcast and share it with the world.
And the Spotify platform makes it super easy to get started. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter where you are when an idea hits, you're ready to start recording.
Spotify for Podcasters makes it easy to distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Plus, you can do video podcasts and engage with fans through Q&A and polls. You can even earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions.
And best of all, it's free. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters and sign up for your free account to start recording and sharing your podcast with the world. This week on Unforgotten.
Shannon Steele was born in Ohio on July 23rd in 1988. Shannon was the mother of 4 beautiful children, 3 girls and 1 boy. And she had just given birth to her youngest daughter in September of 2017.
After 3 p.m. on December 28, 2017, a Demopolis police officer arrived at 29-year-old Shannon's apartment on Queensberry Lane. The officer entered the home and discovered Shannon's 4-month-old daughter in the back bedroom, along with Shannon.
Still unsolved, and the leading investigators decided to issue a total of $20,000 reward.
Articles all say that the officer originally reported to the apartment because he was serving civil papers on a guest in the residence. It never...
May I like the thought that this person is still walking amongst us.
Hey everyone, this is Sellers.
And this is Stormy.
And this is Unforgotten,
where each episode will highlight unsolved missing, murdered, and suspicious death cases in Alabama in order to raise awareness and hopefully obtain some answers for victims and their families.
Please remember that any individual referenced in the podcast should be considered innocent until found guilty in a court of law, and any opinions or views expressed in the podcast are solely those of participants. Listener discretion is advised, as some of the content discussed in the podcast may contain violence or graphic descriptions and may not be suitable for all audiences.
Be sure to join our Unforgotten Patreon channel today to gain exclusive benefits, including early access to ad-free episodes and bonus content. By subscribing, you'll also be supporting the efforts of ACCA in assisting families and raising awareness for Alabama cold cases.
And now for episode 30, Shannon Steele.
Hey guys, and welcome back. Stormy, have you ever used a sublimation printer?
I have not. What is that?
So, you know how there's heat vinyl and you can make shirts and stuff. You get like a Cricut or a Silhouette or whatever, and it cuts the vinyl out. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I have one of those, and I make those shirts all the time. I actually made a crap ton of stickers for decorations to go on the homecoming float for my son's football team.
I didn't know you could do that. Now I know that you can do that. I'm going to be like making demands.
So you have to it's really kind of complicated to do on this because it's going to be easier with this printer, but you have to, with the vinyl, you have to cut each individual layer for the colors.
Ew.
So you have your base layer if you have like a background, like their theme was like a rock and roll. Or Rock of the Ages or something. And so we had all kind of different guitars cut out in cardboard. And so I had like skulls and crossbones and lightning bolts and things like that. All these different things like rock and roll, whatever.
You did a good job with that. I saw that.
Well, every different color is a different layer.
Ugh.
So I would have to print like the bottom layer in whatever color, and then print if there was a middle layer, print that, and then whatever. So it's really tedious to do that. And the sublimation is almost like screen printing. So instead of cutting it out in vinyl, you actually have paper. It prints onto transfer paper, and then it it's the ink, prints onto the transfer paper, and then you take it, use your heat press, and it transfers the ink directly to the fabric or the buttons or whatever you're putting it on.
So you starting a business?
With all this extra time? Yes. In my mind, I thought, I'm going to try and see if I can make our shirts. Mm-hmm. And then maybe we could just bring it in-house with all the free time that we have.
That's what I was thinking.
But let's not, count our chickens before they hatch, because it came in this week, and, this week's been hectic. Mm-hmm. So I just got around to unboxing everything this week. The printer and ink, all that stuff. I've got a load of blank shirts here that I'm I'm ready to do something with them. And I was like, I'm going to make a sweatshirt, but I don't to wear to the football game tonight. It's our last football game, but I don't want it to say anything about football because this is the last game and we're about to roll into wrestling, and I want to be able to wear it for both. And so
I feel a story coming on here.
Oh my gosh. So I sit down and I make my graphic, I draw it all out and all this stuff and get the printer set up. I'm thinking I've got plenty of time at this point. Put the ink in, whatever, print it off. First off, I had set the size on my Procreate app to 8.5 by 14, which is legal size. Mm-hmm. And it won't let me change my print option when I'm trying to send it from my iPad from letter to legal. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's just, it'll still work, whatever. So the first print run, it prints off letter size. Even though it's on legal paper, it cuts off on your standard letter size. I'm like, oh, crap, too small. So I finally figure out I've got to use the actual app, the printer app that came with it or whatever. So get that fixed, get it printed out on the legal size. Looks great. I flip it over, I put it on the shirt, and I'm getting ready to put my heat press on. And my husband walks by and he was like, is that going to read right? And I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, no, it's not mirrored. So it was going to be backwards. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, hang on. So at this point, it's now, the game starts at 7. We like to get there, around 6:15-ish. And we're now at 6:15. I've not really done anything with my hair or my face or anything. I have on sweatpants, a Guns N' Roses t-shirt. And he's like, well, look, while this is going, why don't you go change or whatever, so you don't just have to stand here. And I'm like, what are you saying? He was like, well, I didn't know if you were going to change into jeans or whatever you were wearing. I was like, what if this was what I was wearing? I should have. It was really cold. I would have probably been a lot warmer. So I get it mirrored. I send it to the printer, get it done, go back, put it on. I'm like, oh, so glad you caught that, because I would have looked like an idiot walking in and been like, oh, but if I stand in front of a mirror, it looks right. Yeah. So I put it on the shirt, get it all taped down. I put the heat press on, and I'm super excited. I pull the heat press off and I pull the paper up, and there's nothing on my shirt.
What? Oh, nothing. No, I know what you did.
So it turns out the printer comes with regular printer ink.
Oh,
and I thought it was sublimation ink. We had ordered extra of an extra pack, just so when I ran out, I wouldn't have to wait for more to come in. Oh my gosh. So I was
you have a printer with just to print with right now.
Oh, today we drained it. Well, I take that back. My husband drained it and apparently made a huge mess trying to drain the ink out of it. He picked his feet up, and the bottom of his feet looked like those, like when they take babies and make their... That's how bad the mess had gotten, because he said it was going really well. I was getting it in the container, and then I dropped it and spilled it everywhere.
Shit.
So, needless to say, I have not made a dang thing with it yet. I haven't even gotten it.
You still have to order the ink then, right?
No, I've got the backup that is actually sublimation ink. But we were both sitting there looking at it like, what is going on here? And we pulled out the spare ink and he's like, this says sublimation ink. Because I'm looking at the paper and I'm like, did I print it on the wrong side?
That's what I thought you did. I thought it was going to be like you'd like flip the paper upside down or something.
No, it said if it didn't print, it means you used the wrong ink. And he's like, oh my God, I bet that's regular ink. And I'm like, but I thought the purpose of this printer specifically was this. So why wouldn't they send that? No, it turns out it is actually just like a regular printer, but it can be used for this.
Oh, jeez.
And so it was a cluster and then it was a mess today.
Yeah.
And the backup ink, you have to use syringes to actually refill the ink tank. So I'm in here performing surgery on this printer. So we're not going to count on any new business ventures anytime soon.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of work.
Yeah. And I still haven't even made anything yet to know what it looks like.
Oh, heavens.
Yeah. Oh my God. It is.
Good heavens.
We rolled in right as the football team was running out of the end zone to kick off.
Yeah. Well, at least you got it.
They won their last game. Yeah. And but I couldn't find my regular sweatshirt.
Yeah.
For their school. So I'm like walking
Guns N'
around.
Roses it was?
Nope. I'm walking around in one of their soccer sweatshirts.
Well, still team spirit, right?
Whatever. I don't care. Yeah. And then it was freezing. And I'm like, I should have kept the sweatpants on. Yeah. It's so cold. I left my blanket. I don't like cold weather.
Yeah. We've come to know that about you, of course.
I
live in cold weather and I don't like cold weather. So
no, I'm like a bear. I go into hibernation. I'm like, you will not see me during cold weather.
Well, we had a little tiny update. Nothing significant yet. But we did get a message on Dina's case after we posted the episode. Her niece contacted us, and her father and Dina's father apparently were the ones that were called to identify her. And he actually is wanting to talk with us about the case. And so
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they reached out.
I am too. And it's they were there when it happened. It sounds like the family was pretty upset, when it happened, of course, but it'll give us a little more insight as to what happened directly from those who were involved. So that's great.
Yeah. Well, it was like we said, just from the papers that we had and we looked at, it was incredibly traumatic. I can imagine.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I couldn't even. But
I'm glad that we were able to make contact, and hopefully we can help them get it going again.
Yeah,
it'd be great.
And if we have, any new information, of course, we'll bring you the update either at the beginning of another episode, or if it's enough, we'll do maybe a supplemental episode. So we'll see how that goes when we talk to them.
Yep.
Well, after a couple of weeks in northern Alabama, we're now heading to west central Alabama in the northernmost area of Marengo County and the county's largest city, Demopolis.
I actually went to college not far from Demopolis.
Did you? Oh.
Yep. I went to the University of West Alabama.
And that's right there, huh? I did not know that.
I went there for 2 years and then transferred to South Alabama.
Oh,
but yep, awesome. Not far. We didn't have Walmart or anything. We had a Walmart in Livingston at the time, but it was like the original Walmart.
Uh-huh.
So if you wanted to go to a bigger Walmart, you had to go to Demopolis or to Meridian.
Yeah, the original Walmarts were pretty small. They seemed big at the time, probably, but
yeah, it was like the old brown Walmart. It had all the it was like brown on the outside. They don't have those around anymore. Not like your neighborhood Walmart.
Yeah. Well, by the largest city compared to most large cities, this is actually fairly small, which is obvious now listening to what you were saying.
Yeah.
But they have a bit under 6,900 residents as of 2022. And it looks like the population has been dropping quite a bit over the last decade, because in 2010, it was just shy of 7,500 residents. So that's quite a drop in a decade.
Yeah.
Especially when you're considering the small amount that it is, percentage-wise.
And I think probably part of that is maybe a little bit of people moving to areas for jobs.
That could be.
Moving to bigger areas closer to work-related things.
Right. Yeah, that would make sense.
Possibly. I don't know that for sure, but
yeah.
And it's been a while since I've been to Demopolis, so I'm sure they've built up since I was there last, but that would be my
good reasoning
thought about it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. The city lies at the junction of the Black Warrior River and Tombiggy. I'm hoping I said that.
Tombigby.
Tombigby. Oh, Bigby. Okay. Okay. I wonder if is it somebody named Tom Bigby that named the river?
I'm not really sure. Yeah. But there's also a Bigby, Alabama. And nobody knows where that is.
Well, maybe this is also a Native American name that I'm just not recognizing too. So, but it is on that crossing. It's situated on a cliff. And now, so you obviously must have known that if you were around that area, right?
No.
I love it. I love it when I can stump you.
I was just sitting here looking at it and I'm like, remember this place that we went one time called the Catwalk, but I don't think that's it.
It actually is situated at what apparently the locals call White Bluff, but it's a chalk formation cliff, I guess. So that's interesting. Yeah. It also boasts a couple parks, but including the Demopolis River Walk, which is a scenic paved path along the banks of the Tombigby River. However, the one that caught my attention was the Spillway Falls Park below the Demopolis Lock and Dam, because I think waterfalls are cool, and even when they're low, I just think they're pretty.
I love waterfalls too.
Yeah,
but I've never been there, and now I want to go because it's really not far.
Yeah. Well, and it says it has an observation deck where you can see the large spillway. So, it's like the big spread out water, but then you can see how they go over the rocky, what you would call falls. You think of a waterfall as like this big tall thing with spilling out water, but these are almost as pretty to me because they're kind of almost like rolling over rocks, but the rest of it's all smooth because it comes from the dam. So I thought that was pretty cool. And also it has a lot of wild birds in the area, including wild turkeys.
That I'm not surprised to hear.
Yeah.
Turkeys and deer.
Well, yeah. We have a lot of those out here too. Yeah.
I remember the drive from when I would go home on the weekends and then back to school and college. And it was a whole lot of nothing at the time. It's just, like I said, you run through little towns on your way. But it is a good place for wildlife because it isn't as industrialized, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Now we're going to turn from our scenic review of Demopolis to the case we're sharing today. Shannon Steele. Just after 3 p.m. on December 28, 2017, a Demopolis police officer arrived at 29-year-old Shannon's apartment on Queensberry Lane to serve civil papers on a guest in the home. Instead of being met by one of the adults in the home, they were met by Shannon's 4-year-old son, who told them that someone had killed his mother. The officer entered the home and discovered Shannon's 4-month-old daughter in the back bedroom, along with Shannon, who had sustained a fatal gunshot wound. Shannon's 4-month-old daughter was alive and unharmed in the bedroom with her. We also learned from a Demopolis Times article on July 15, 2020, that Shannon's aunt, Valeda Steele, who works for Marengo County 911, actually took the call regarding Shannon's murder.
All of that. It almost doesn't even need to be said. That is just crazy, heartbreaking, just terrible. I can't even imagine the kids. And then to top it off, can you imagine taking a relative's 911 call.
Oh my gosh. The panic and worry and concern that you would feel over that.
Yeah.
And then Shannon had 2 other daughters who fortunately weren't home at the time.
Right.
But this is her 4-year-old son who probably didn't even know to call 911 to get help. If he even could get, because I'm assuming, in 2017, by that time, people had really started not using landlines anymore. And it was cell phones. And you have to, if there's a password on it, how is he going to get into that,
For sure, yeah.
So he just had to wait for somebody to come.
Yeah.
And that just hurts my heart.
Yeah. And I wonder, how much he witnessed. I don't think it has said much in the information that we have about, him being there in the apartment when it happened. So, yeah, a lot of questions, I guess, about that. So now that we know the heartbreaking scene, let's back up a little bit and give you a bit of background on Shannon. According to Ancestry.com, Shannon Steele was born in Ohio on July 23rd in 1988 to David Moore and Jermaine Steele. It appears that Shannon and at least her mother moved to Alabama at some point after Shannon's birth. According to Shannon's Facebook page, she attended Amelia L. Johnson High School in Thomaston and went on to study at Lawson State Community College. Eventually, Shannon began working as a pharmacy tech at CVS, and she may have been a CNA based on her Facebook page. So as we were talking about earlier, Shannon was the mother of 4 beautiful children, 3 girls and 1 boy, and she had just given birth to her youngest daughter in September of 2017. So again, according to her Facebook page, her original page was hacked, prompting her to start a new one in 2017. And while there aren't many posts on her page, it doesn't take long to see that Shannon was a dedicated mother who really loved her children. It also looks like she loved football and had an incredible sense of humor.
She was always posting about some football stuff and her babies.
I don't know. The ones with kids always get me. They're all horrible, but the little kids.
And especially knowing that she had this sweet baby that is never going to get the chance to know her mama.
Yeah.
And
the 4-year-old is probably going to have, probably does have a hard time remembering. But
it looks like they are surrounded by a wonderful family who is ensuring that they know what a great mother their mom was. When I was searching for Shannon to see if she had any social media pages or anything, you could see where her Facebook page is tagged in more recent things by different people about the kids since then. And it's really sweet. And I'm really thankful when kids have an environment like that to, grow up in, where they have family and friends that are reminding them, you may not remember, but let me tell you.
Right. So they can learn about it almost as if they're maybe not know them, but they'll feel a little bit more like they know them.
Yeah. Christmas Day of 2017 sounded like it might have been a hectic one. And really, what Christmas Day isn't hectic?
I was just about to say that.
Yeah. Shannon had shared a Facebook status that said, "Just not my day." And based on the comments, it looks like at least one of the stresses of that day was a watch that had possibly made its way into a garbage can outside. And she had been
Have you done that before?
Oh my gosh.
Have you done that before at Christmas time and thrown something away with all the wrapping paper?
Yes. Have I done that before when it wasn't Christmas time? Yes.
Gift cards are the worst because those can be easily missed.
Yes. And you're trying to pick up stuff and then it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also appears that on that day, her 2 oldest daughters left to go visit relatives, which would be why they weren't home that weekend.
Yeah. Well, that might have made it kind of, you want them to be able to go do things like that, but on Christmas, you feel like, you kind of wish your kids were home, especially if she was as close to them as she was.
Yeah, and having a blended family, I know that it gets like stressful sometimes because you want to try to make sure that everybody is together as much as possible, that you're getting to all the family events that you can. But when, you have kids that have to leave to go to another parent's house at a certain time, our kids are kind of on an opposite schedule where one's leaving while one's coming. And so it does make it a little bit harder sometimes. And so she also had apparently misplaced a gift for her mom. And I'm not sure if Shannon had misplaced it or really how it happened. But according to a Project Cold Case article that was published in July of this year, Shannon had been looking for a gift for her mom. And that she had bought, I guess, and it had been misplaced by somebody. And that was really bothering her because she was somebody who loved giving to others. She wanted to make sure everybody had a present. She wanted to make sure that everybody, was included and that was really a big deal to her.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I don't remember in the article them saying that it ever was found. So I hope they did find it.
I do too. It would be nice at least if, her mom could have gotten that regardless of what happened.
And on a side note too, I was really glad to see that updated article come out.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
This year, because we don't see that a lot of the times when we're researching the cases. So when that popped up, I was so happy to see it that somebody else had followed up on it.
Yeah, I agree. So upon initial investigation of the scene, authorities were unable to immediately ascertain when Shannon had died or who was responsible. Obviously, they haven't figured out who is responsible yet. But in 2018, the governor did put up a $5,000 reward for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person that was responsible for Shannon's death. As we have noted quite recently, a lot of the cases have had governor's rewards. And by 2020, 2 years later, Shannon's case was still unsolved, and the leading investigators decided to issue a total of $20,000 reward. And what that kind of comprised of is the initial $5,000, but then the DA's office provided an additional $10,000, and Demopolis PD also contributed $5,000. So
that's pretty awesome.
It was kind of nice to see that all, it wasn't just one, it wasn't just the governor, it was all the agencies.
Yeah. In a July 2020 press conference, Marengo County DA Greg Griggers stated the following.
I'm going to say again, that this is a particularly heinous crime, one that I don't like going unsolved in my circuit. I don't like knowing, I know Chief Myers shares this with me, I don't like the thought that this person is still walking amongst us. Not only did he take the life of a young mother in her home in the middle of the night, the worst of all possible situations in my opinion, but he did so with 2 young kids present, which makes it even more. So anything that we can do.
And based on those comments, to me at least, it sounds like they do have a person of interest.
It does, yeah.
Likely a male who's, at least in 2020, still lived in the area.
Yeah.
Because he says not only did he take a life.
Yeah, it's like he kind of hinted at the assumption.
And I'm not sure. I think that was possibly a slip of the tongue, because I think throughout the rest of the conference, actually the statement before that was the thought that this person is still walking amongst us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it had been very generic and vague through most of it until that comment.
Yeah.
It was almost like an emotional response too.
And I could see that. And I don't know if everybody picked up on it, or, sometimes people like us who study cases and, that sort of thing, pick up on those things a little bit more. But it could have even been intentional just to see if the person, had a response of any sort, knowing that.
I would like to think they do have a person of interest, because the articles all say that the officer originally reported to the apartment because he was serving civil papers on a guest in the residence. It never says that he was serving papers on Shannon, just somebody else in the home. But I've never seen any reference to Shannon having a roommate or anything like that. And so my question there would be well, who was living with her at the time or staying with her around that time that they would have been serving papers on? Is that who they're considering? And maybe not. And honestly, that really, I guess, isn't really any of our business. But, I would like to think they have developed over the years, at least by this time, a person of interest.
Right. And I would guess if they did, and it did happen to be this person, they would have quite a bit of information if they had something to serve on them. So, it's interesting though that we haven't heard any. I haven't seen anything in any of the articles about it. So,
no, and I had hoped that I was going to stumble across something saying an arrest had been made or her case had been solved, but I came across the Project Cold Case article instead, and I was like, oh man,
yeah.
So, regardless of the press conference in 2020 and the reward that had been issued, it appears that even now, 5 years later, Shannon's case remains unsolved. We did submit a request for an update by DPD through their website, but as of the date of this recording, which is November 4th, we've not heard anything back yet. I didn't see an email on their website, and I'll be honest, last week was hectic, so I didn't get a chance to actually call, which sometimes is better than trying to send an email. But I had a real quick break during work one day, and I was like, I'm sending this just on the off chance that we can get an update. But we haven't heard anything back from that yet.
Right. Yep.
If you have any information regarding Shannon's murder, please contact Demopolis Police Department at 334-289-3073. Since Alabama Cold Case Advocacy's creation, we have dedicated innumerable hours to researching and networking in an effort to provide the largest platform we can to the cases we share. We shoulder all associated expenses with Alabama Cold Case Advocacy out of our own pocket, including the subscription fees for researching and production of the Unforgotten podcast to provide a cost-free avenue for the victims' families of those cases.
We hope you will join in our efforts to raise awareness of Alabama's missing and murdered and support these families who have been forced to carry the immeasurable loss of their loved ones and the fight for answers. If you appreciate our mission and you are inspired to make a donation, your extra support will enable the ACCA to continue our research, share the cold cases, and help those families know that they are also unforgotten.
Unforgotten is an Alabama cold case advocacy podcast recorded in conjunction with Riverside FM, hosted and distributed by Spotify for podcasters, available on your favorite podcast platform. Intro music for the show was created by Principles of Uncertainty, who also mixed and mastered this episode. Content and production is by Sellers Stormy. Artwork by Sellers. Credits for music, sound clips, special mentions, and any source referenced in our podcast can be found in each episode's description. We hope you will join us on all the major social media sites and continue to raise awareness of our Alabama cold cases. Until next time, thank you for listening, and remember, justice may be delayed, but the victims and their families remain unforgotten.